Well, hello and welcome to the Epsom 2021 Youth MP Debate. Now, what's this all about? Well, if you are not a complete political tragic, then I can understand you might not be aware that every 3 years, Parliament is taken over by 16 to 18-year-olds. They actually appoint an MP from each electorate, and on behalf of each list MP, and for 3 days, these young people sit in the seat of the real MP that they are replacing. Now, I say real MP, that doesn't mean that it's not a big improvement. In fact, some people would argue those 3 days are the highest quality collaboration and debate that happens in the whole 3-year cycle of Parliament. It's a really great tradition. It allows young people to understand a little bit about parliamentary democracy. And I know there's a few people out there who say, why would you want to try and turn kids into politicians? Just let kids be kids and, try and stop this lunacy as early as possible. But actually, I think it's really important that Parliament and parliamentary democracy as an institution, which has served New Zealand pretty well, all things considered, is widely understood, and that we widen the channel of people getting involved in it, so we have the highest possible quality representation. So that's why I get behind Youth MP every 3 years when it's on. But in the Epsom electorate, we do things a little bit differently. You see, in most cases, the MP finds a young person they know, or calls up the local principal at the school and gets them to nominate someone, or gets the local kids to write an essay or something like that. What we do in the Epsom electorate is we actually are committed to democracy. We let the 16 to 18-year-olds who attend secondary school in Epsom or live in the Epsom electorate and may attend schools outside. If you either go to school or live in Epsom and you're 16 to 18, you're a voter in the Youth MP election, and you can choose from the 4 candidates I'm about to introduce. You go online, you get registered to vote. You've got to show your school ID, and we will be double checking some of them with the schools to make sure there's no voter fraud, by the way. And we will ensure that we have the most democratic Youth MP selection in New Zealand, just as we did in the last election. Now, the candidates will be campaigning in a variety of ways on social media in this debate, emailing their friends, calling people up, doing everything they can to secure the votes to win Youth MP. So if you're 16 to 18 and you either live or go to school in the Epsom electorate, you may hear from these characters pretty soon. They're going to be campaigning for real. This is not any kind of drill. This is actual democracy, and I think it's a beautiful thing that's going on here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the 4 candidates that you can vote for if you're 16 to 18 and go to school or live in the Epsom electorate. Our first candidate hails from St Peter's College. Whānau tells me he is a proud Pacifica person. He's also an athlete, and a serious athlete. He's involved in shot put and also in discus. So he's at the pretty heavy end of track and field. And we're really grateful to have Whānau along. So welcome, Whānau. We're looking forward to hearing you give a 2-minute presentation in a few minutes. But I've just got to introduce a few more candidates here today. Next up, and also from St Peter's College, is Samson. So Samson is, he tells me, a thespian. He was involved in Beauty and the Beast, the outstanding St Peter's College Barradine production a few years back that I was actually lucky enough to attend and got a backstage pass to. I can't remember which role in Beauty and the Beast Samson was playing, but he certainly is a very talented musician. He has grade 8 in piano, and we're really looking forward to hearing what Samson has to say. So welcome, Samson. And these candidates, by the way, are in no particular order, but next up is Jade Varney from Barradine. Now, if you're a Catholic voter in this Epsom Youth MP election, then you've got no shortage of choice with all these St Peter's boys and one Barradine girl so far. Jade, welcome. Jade Varney is someone I've known for a while because she put together a petition to improve youth mental health, presented it to Parliament, got 12,000 people to sign it. Jade has already been politically active. She's involved in mooting. and I think, and she is another performing arts person. They seem to be everywhere. Shakespeare said that all life is a stage, and it seems that politics is like that too, or at least these candidates are thinking so. So welcome, Jade Varney from Barradine. Really great to have you along. And our fourth and final, but by no means least candidate, is Charlotte from St Cuths. St Cuthberts provided the Epsom Youth MP in the previous Youth Parliament 3 years back. Charlotte, the first thing she said is, I'm into science. And I think in these times, when you look at COVID, when you look at the assault on reason, discussion, people that are committed to science are as rare as hen's teeth, and we need more of them, particularly in Parliament, in my humble opinion, although I'm biased because I'm an electrical engineer surrounded by lawyers and arts graduates. So maybe I'm bringing my personal prejudices there. So it's really great to have you along, Charlotte from St Cuthberts. And these four candidates now are each going to do a 2-minute presentation. We're going to give them the floor on why you should vote for them. Then we're going to bring everyone back in the room. I'm going to pitch up a few questions just to tease out some of the issues. What do they think are most important to Epsom youth? What will they be taking to Youth Parliament on the behalf of Epsom youth? And then we're going to have a 1-minute close off. At that point, we're going to invite people, get registered. In fact, you can register at the link that's on the screen right now, or will be in a second at any time. If you go to act.org.nz/2022_Epsom_youth_parliament, so that's 2022 Epsom Youth Parliament with underscores at the ACT website, that's how you can register to vote. By the way, our voting system is run by a third-party provider, so all the details are totally confidential, but we really need people to register and get out to vote. Anyway, that's more than enough for me. We're well over the run sheet schedule already. So without further ado, I want to introduce Whānau. You've got 2 minutes to convince people that you are the person who should be representing the Epsom electorate in the 2022 Youth Parliament next year. I'll leave it to you. Take it away, Whānau.
Malolele everyone, and kia ora. My name is Whānau Asiata. I'm a proud Pasifika person of Tongan and Samoan descent, hailing from very humble beginnings, which has motivated my yearn to make a positive difference, whether it be big or small, in the everyday lives of people. I believe that I work with grit, creativity, selflessness, reassurance, and accountability to ensure I'm doing justice to any job that I've committed to. Earlier this year, I was elected as the youngest and first Pasifika director on the board of Athletics Auckland, which has given me immense exposure to the amount of hard work that is required to ensure our regional athletics events run with fluidity. Within this role, I have tried my best to integrate inclusiveness, and this role definitely supports my quest to serve as the Youth MP for Epsom. I've always had a strong desire to serve and care for people, and that's inspired me to study towards a Bachelor's of Nursing next year in 2022, and of course, to apply for the role of Youth MP for the awesome electorate of Epsom. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you very much, Whānau. That's a very strong, well put together speech, and some pretty impressive stuff that you've done, and some real character and conviction coming in there. So well done you, and a very good option for people thinking about voting if they're registered, or maybe a reason to get registered and vote if you are living or going to school in Epsom and between 16 and 18. It's well worth getting along to that address on the bottom of the screen. As we said, our next candidate to give 2 minutes on why they should be the Youth MP for Epsom is Samson from St Peter's College. Samson, the floor's all yours. You've got 2 minutes. We're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Sweet, thanks, David. Hey guys, I'm Samson. I'm a proud St Peter's College student. In future, I want to go study politics. So basically, my beliefs in politics is that too many people go into politics with their own opinion in mind, and what they believe out of their own personal morals in life. I want to go into politics because I don't want to represent my personal morals, but I want to provide what New Zealand needs, so I can attempt to make this country like a better place, as obviously I would be representing the people of New Zealand. I know that all the candidates in here care about New Zealand and the people watching care about New Zealand. And I mean, it's the future decisions that we're going to be making. And it's a hard thing to make as well, but it's really hard to make the difference when you make those decisions. Well, a main goal that I've looked into politics is basically just solving all the problems. So David said this once actually, looking into what National did wrong so I can improve, and looking what into Labour has created and neglected, what I can improve as well. Basically, I just appeal to the young emerging demographic. We're an easily forgotten generation in the middle of all that going on in a pandemic. Obviously increasing and creating havoc everywhere. We turn whether that be family life, small businesses and economic impacts, education, and is basically creating a division of a nation. The young people of today are tomorrow's future. What we say matters. Young people are attracted to the truth, and we must seek the good for everyone. I intend to focus on three key things. What people worries about in the future, like jobs, expenses, like homes, and sustainable environments. And that's it. Thank you.
Hey, look, thank you very much, Samson. Another really strong speech. We're going great here. People really prepared, really succinct speeches. We're going to keep cracking through. So thank you, Samson. And next up from Barradine is Jade Varney, who I mentioned earlier is behind the Mental Health for Youth petition, and also another thespian like Samson. So please, Jade, the floor is all yours. We're looking forward to hearing why people in the Epsom electorate should vote for you to be the Youth MP for Epsom next year.
Thanks, David. Well, as David said, my name is Jade Varney, and I see myself as a pretty average student. I compete in mock law competitions. I love my dog like my child, and I hang out with my friends on the weekend. But this is what I believe drives me to want to become the Youth MP for Epsom. I'm relatable, I'm driven and compassionate, and I'm experiencing the exact same hardships as other students throughout the lockdown, but more specifically have been gaining insights into our broken mental health systems throughout the past year. I've been heavily campaigning for these improvements of our mental health systems to be made for around 6 months. And over these 6 months, I've been able to gain insights into not only how unreliable these systems have become, in particular to youth, but I've been able to develop ideas on how we can improve them. Improving these systems are the end goal of my campaign, and if our current government is aware of the issues within the systems and still aren't doing enough to improve them, we can't sit around and wait for them to wake up and make a change. These changes are needed and they're urgent, and if I'm able to present these potential improvements and have these resolutions heard by the people who have the power to make a change, we can be one step closer to improving these systems and making them reliable and accessible to all New Zealanders. That's all. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you very much, Jade. Another really strong presentation there. And that leaves us with last but definitely not least is Charlotte from St Cuthberts, who, as I mentioned, is a pro-science candidate according to her. Charlotte, we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say in the next 2 minutes about why people in the Epsom electorate should be voting you to represent them in Youth Parliament 2022.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte, and as David just said, in the future I'm hoping to go into a science-based career. I think that science needs to be completely applied to politics in our parliament as we go into the uncertain future that we are facing. And as a generation, we need to harness science more and more as we face climate change, and need to make sure that we are ensuring that future generations still have a world left to be involved in politics in. I think I'd be right for this role as I care about both people and the climate, which I think are also intertwinable, and we need to make sure that we are making the right decisions for everyone in New Zealand and also the world as a whole. Thank you.
Well, that was short and sweet, Charlotte, but very succinct and well prepared. It's like the old story, I was going to write you a short letter, but I didn't have the time. Sometimes doing a short and sweet, succinct speech is actually the hardest thing of all, and I thought that packed a lot of punch, so good for you. Now, we're going to go in just for a few minutes, maybe just do what often happens at public meetings when we can actually meet in person. People in the audience will put up a question, and not everyone has to answer it. Sometimes it's a question directed at just one candidate. Other times it goes right along the row and everyone sort of gives their answer. The only thing I say is that, if you go on and on and on, I might have to get the metaphorical crook and actually pull you off, because otherwise we can end up with really long speeches and it's not fair on the other candidates. So we're going to try and keep it to 30-second answers, so just so that we shuffle through and people don't get into a sort of arms race where everyone speaks longer and longer. But the first question is one that some people covered in different ways in their opening addresses, but just 30 seconds each. What is, in your view, the most important, if you just had to pick one issue, and I know you never can, but if you had to pick one issue, what is the most important thing you would get to work on behalf of Epsom youth? And just to mix it up a bit, why don't we go in the reverse order, which is a bit hard on Charlotte, so you've got a quick turnaround. But Charlotte, starting with you, what would you say is the most important issue?
I would say that the very base of my speech is climate change. As for any of our other issues to be fixed, we need to make sure we have a world to fix them in.
Okay, there we go. So thank you very much for that. Again, short, sweet, decisive answer. And then going in reverse order, that takes us back to Jade again. So Jade, most important issue for people in the Epsom electorate, 16 to 18-year-olds?
So I think that the most important issue would be to be improving our mental health systems, because this doesn't just affect our generation, but all of the generations to come need to have a adequate mental health care service that they're able to rely on, which at the moment I do not believe it is adequate or reliable at all. So,
okay. Thank you very much, Jade. And carrying on in our reverse order, Samson, most important issue?
I believe that we should be looking into the economy. As a quote from a movie, I like it, from Milltown Pride, is "We are the future. There are no stains on the pages of tomorrow." Basically, we've got a lot of time so that we can improve our economy. At the moment, it seems like we've got a bit of a unlimited credit card that we're spending, and we need to look after this a bit more careful, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so thank you very much, Samson. And the economy, as Bill Clinton once said, it's the economy is stupid, plus it helps to have quotes in politics. And that takes us finally to Whanau. What would you say is the most important issue?
Yeah, similar to Jade, I 100% believe that our mental well-being, our mental haora needs a bit more addressing. And with this, it does ensure that students feel that they're in a safer environment to carry out their studies.
Okay, well, thank you again. I love this. Imagine if politicians in normal elections were actually this succinct and not so enamored with the sound of their own voice, not looking at anyone in particular. So now we're going to mix it up a bit. Here's the trick part. For each of those, and in the same order, for the thing you just named, what would be the first thing that you would do that would be different to what's happening now to try and improve that challenge that you mentioned? So starting with Charlotte.
I think the most important thing to help begin to tackle climate change is communication, and make sure that everyone knows what's going on and what can be done to fix it. Okay,
so communication about climate change so people know what actions they can take. I think it's a great answer. Next up, we had Jade. So you named mental health. What would you do differently?
I would begin to roll out education programs into schools so that children and teenagers, however you want to name them, can be more heavily educated on the role that mental health will play in their future lives. And yeah.
Okay, excellent. So start early, get educated, tackle mental health with more information. I think that's a great answer. And then that takes us to Samson. Now, you talked about the economy. What would you do to improve New Zealand's economic status?
So I mean, it's a long shot as a 17-year-old trying to do something around this. But what I want to do is basically, future investments in the regions, like for example, reopening like the plants, like the Taranaki natural gas, and still finding a way around it, even though it's bad for the environment. Finding a sustainable way around it as well, because I mean, it'll bring in money, and if we can find a sustainable way around it, I mean, bang, we're getting money and it's improving the environment or not ruining the environment. So it's a win-win opportunity if we can make it happen.
Okay, so finding a way to use natural gas more sustainably and actually get money out of doing it, that sounds like a really solid answer on the economy. That finally takes us to whānau. So tell us, you also mentioned mental health. What would be a step that you'd take to improve the mental health situation in New Zealand?
Yes, education would definitely be a very important aspect to tackle the mental health issue, but also thinking more from a brotherhood, sisterhood view. We could integrate some sort of program within schools to allow students to be able to express their mental health and have daily mental health checkups.
Okay, so you've already started thinking about actual strategies at school level. I think that's really cool, and relying on that family sort of theme sounds quite creative too. So look, thank you very much for that. We'll change up the order a bit. We'll go in the same order, but start one person later, just so that poor whānau and Jade don't get lumped with being first every time. So we'll start with Jade this time. And this could be a bit tricky, but here's a question. Should you have to be vaccinated when school goes back?
I don't believe you should have to be vaccinated when school goes back. I believe it's your choice, and I think that although it may be seen as smarter to get vaccinated, it shouldn't be forced upon you that your education would be withheld from you, that you have a right to. If you chose not to get the vaccine for one way or another, you should just be aware of the consequences that come with not being vaccinated.
All right, so straight out of the blocks and a very decisive answer. It's very impressive, Jade. And that takes us to our next person in line is Samson. Should you have to be vaccinated to go back to school?
Well, personally, I don't believe that you should be. I kind of agree with Jade, but I think that we've been pushed to by our government to a point where if you don't get it, you're going to miss out. I mean, it's been said by Jacinda herself. So again, you don't have to get it, but you have to be aware of the consequences of maybe even just getting sick, affecting others, and just missing out on events in the future, going to restaurants, hanging out with mates and all that.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much. Another strong answer. You guys are crisp. And that takes us to second to last in this new order, whānau.
Yes, for me, I'm fairly neutral in terms of mandatory vaccination. As someone who's going to be going into the health field, I will have an obligation to encourage it. However, I do also believe in freedom of choice. However, yes, as Samson said, there are the consequences, unfortunately, that people unvaccinated will have to suffer. So I believe in freedom of choice, and I believe that students should be vaccinated at the same time. So yeah, I'm very mixed with what I believe in.
Okay, fair enough. It sounds like he's taking into account all different people's perspectives, which is an important thing to do in politics. And that takes us to Charlotte. So Charlotte, where would you come out on, if St Cuthberts was going to go back? Should it be required that you're vaccinated to go back to school?
I don't think it should necessarily be mandated upon people, but I think there should be a lot of access to education about the consequences of not being vaccinated, both on your health and other people's, and also on the roles that our government are taking to mandate vaccinations for certain events, so that everyone should understand the consequences of not being vaccinated, but still be given the choice.
Yep. So it's really interesting, a really strong theme coming through almost consistently, that you're not interested in force, but there seems to be a suggestion that if people had better quality of information, then they might make different decisions anyway. So look, thank you. It's a really, really solid set of answers. That's a tricky question that a lot of people are grappling with at all levels of politics at the moment. We've got one final question, which comes from Maya as an audience member. And the question is, how would you encourage more young people into politics? Now, bear in mind, the answer doesn't have to be a strategy for doing that. You could equally argue that maybe it's not a good idea. We shouldn't be doing this to young people. But anyway, you could take your own view of it. With the way we're doing our order, we'll start one person later in the order. So, Samson, you're next up.
Yeah, so encourage young people into politics. Honestly, I'd probably, just go around visiting the schools. And like sometimes, like at St. Peter's, we have a mandatory assembly that we have to attend, and just like presenting in front of those students, just your thoughts on politics, and maybe offering like a sign-up sheet or whatever. That'd be a good idea. Or if you can't do that, maybe just like a lunch, because I'm sure that people like me, all my mates, if there's free food provided, I mean, we're all going to be there.
Yeah, no, outstanding. And interestingly, Valentine Santana, who was the youth MP last time, gave all of the voters Krispy Kremes just as they were voting. And some people suspect that may have influenced the voting. So food and politics, actually banned by the Electoral Acts, but it's called treating. But also a very effective strategy, as we found out recently. That takes us next to Whanau. You must be next. So how to get more young people encouraged into politics was the question from Maya.
Look, politics I feel is something that is more something that you get interested in, as opposed to a subject that you'd force onto kids. But if we were to encourage it, I don't see as to why we can't include civics as a subject and to start off that progress to encouraging politics within our youth.
I really like that. So what you're saying is ultimately the change has to start within the person. And I think there's probably a bit of truth in that. That takes us next to Jade. How to get more young people into politics?
Well, I think that I think it can definitely be encouraged, but I think that if we, in schools, like a few of the other candidates have already mentioned, is that by educating people more about what politics means for their future, because it is our future, and if people want to get their voice across, then obviously politics is one way to do that. And by educating people more in schools about what politics would mean for their future would be a great way to encourage people to stand up and share their opinions.
Absolutely. Well, that takes us to the end of the questions, but we've actually already gone well over our scheduled time. So it's time to go for 1 minute per person, just to come through and basically sum up after everything you've heard today, why it is that if you're an elector in this election, a 16 to 18-year-old who lives in or goes to school in the Epsom electorate, you should register if you haven't already, or vote if you have registered for this particular candidate. Now, the way we've been doing the order is we're just stepping through, starting one person later each time. So that means that this time we're going to have first up is Whanau, I think, who funnily enough was first the first time. So take it away.
Yes, so I'm calling all students of Epsom for your vote. I come with a lot of integrity, a lot of leadership, and also potential as well to serve as your youth MP. So thank you again for the opportunity, and vote Whanau Asiata for youth MP for Epsom.
Very solid, and remember to ask for the vote, so good on them. Thank you very much. I think you've done really well, and people that want to vote for a whānau, you can get online, register anytime in the next few days, and make sure that you put your vote behind them if you'd like them to represent you. That takes us next. I'm going to get my order mixed up here, but I think it must take us to Charlotte next.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched today, and I hope you consider voting for me for this role, as I think I can bring lots of great ideas and just newer ideas as well to this role. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and really pleased with the way you've come on, and I love your succinct answers. If all politicians could speak like that, we would save a huge amount of time in New Zealand and around the democratic world. That takes us next to Jade. Jade, take it away, 1 minute on why people should choose you after all of this debate.
I also just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. It's been really amazing, but I think that people should vote for me because I have younger siblings that constantly force me to view what New Zealand's future will look like for them in particular, and what mental health systems are going to look like in the future. The urgent need for improvements isn't just for the benefit of our generation, as I've said, but for the generations to come. Their future is in our hands, essentially, and therefore the quality of our mental health systems that one day will be used by these future generations is up to us. I don't want to see my siblings suffer due to our broken mental health system that has been broken for already far too long. I want my siblings and the future of our country to have accessibility to the adequate mental health facilities that they deserve in New Zealand, and I'm prepared to fight for that. So please vote for me.
Hey, look, thank you very much, Jade. And last but not most definitely not least in this randomised order that's becoming more random by the moment, we have Samson from St Peter's College.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks for everyone coming on if you're listening. I just wanted to say that if you're worried about your future, you're worried about what you want to do as a job, if you're worried about that you won't be able to afford a house in Auckland, if you're worried that we're not going to have a sustainable environment, I think that you should definitely vote for me because, I want to work for you and I want to help you. And if you want to help me, you just need to give me your vote. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Samson. Straight and to the point. I love it. That is our four candidates, Jade, Charlotte, Whanau, and Samson. Thank you very much for stepping up. I know that it is not an easy thing to do, especially if it's the first time you've done it. To peel away your anonymity and your privacy and put yourself forward to represent your neighbours in a democratic institution takes a bit of courage. And these guys have not only shown courage, but also extreme skill in the way that they have succinctly and cogently set out their positions. I think all of them could make a great youth MP for Epsom and are very deserving of your vote. If you would like to be a voter and you haven't registered, then please go to the election page on the ACT website. You can register with our totally secure and private third-party online voting system and cast the vote for the candidate that you think should be the Epsom Youth MP in 2022. The voting begins now and it goes all the way through until Sunday, the 7th of November. So you've got, I think it's midday on the 7th of November. So you've basically got almost exactly 166 hours to think about these candidates, cast your vote. And the candidates, of course, have got the same amount of time to encourage their supporters to get registered and get out to vote. In politics, they call it GOTV, get out the vote. That's what the next 7 days is going to be about for these folks. So the only final thing I'd say is that we're very lucky in New Zealand to have a highly respectful political environment. might not seem like that sometimes, but you look at the way politics is done in other democracies like the US, for example, even Australia. We are very lucky that we have a polite and civil political environment, and I ask people to treat these candidates with respect. They're doing a lot stepping up to do this, knowing that only one of the four can actually win. They're all putting their best feet forward, and I think that's really impressive and deserving of our respect. So please get out there and support them. You may not always agree with them, but whoever wins, and even those who may not win, have done a great service by putting themselves forward. That's all from me. I just want to thank everybody for watching. And don't we have an impressive crop of young candidates putting themselves forward, all of them well deserving of your vote. Please follow the instructions on the website. Get yourself registered if you're eligible. Put in your school ID to show that you are an eligible candidate. And we hope to be able to come back in a few weeks' time when we've got our electorate Epsom Youth MP elected, the only elected youth MP in Youth Parliament, to show what the Epsom voters have chosen in this 2022 Youth MP election for the Epsom electorate. Thank you very much.